Hi, everyone. Thank y'all for joining us for our Beef Brunch news update on Tuesday, October 28th. I think it kind of finally feels like fall. I think most of the states saw a good bit of rain, or at least some rain come through over the weekend, Saturday into Saturday night, maybe Sunday, as it moved east. This morning we were working heifers at the hill farm, and it was drizzly. I think we were out there from 7:30 to about 11:30, and it drizzled probably until about 10:45 or 11, but it was nice and cool, and felt good to have a sweatshirt on and be outside. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brittany for our Central Louisiana update.
Okay. Thanks, Ashley. So a couple of things, especially that I saw going on last week. First of all, we had Lainey Richard, the agent in Lafayette, and myself hosted the breeding soundness exams that we do each spring and fall over at Dominique's in Opelousas. And while we were there, I noticed across the street that there was quite a bit of traffic going in and out with from the Southwest feed there. A lot of people getting ryegrass. They were very busy with that, and I know that was probably pretty much anywhere that's selling ryegrass right now, or that was last week. We saw a lot of people getting that planted and getting that ready to go before the rain and the cooler temperatures that we were getting. As far as rainfall goes, I think it was very kind of hit or miss, depending on where you were. I think everybody got rain. Some places it seemed like just accumulated a little more than others. I know kind of in the area where I'm at and where Vince is, we maybe didn't get as much as some of the areas just north of us or more south of us, closer to the coast. But still, it was a much needed rain, definitely for the conditions that we were having there. And then with that, we do have some cooler temperatures coming later this week, I believe, Wednesday or so, which we're super excited about. I know, hopefully, Ashley, you are too. For the state fair, we enjoy when the state fair has just some cooler temperatures, right? But that should be good. Those conditions ought to be good to have some growth start coming up for that ryegrass. And then I guess since our last update as well, we had the AI school over at Dean Lee, which I was able to participate in, and I just wanted to thank y'all again, Ashley, for putting that on, and I know Vince helped as well, and Tripp and Randall and everybody that contributed to that, the guys out at Dean Lee who helped with that. We had a great group of producers, and I enjoyed getting to know them and getting myself a pass for AI school as well. So I'm looking forward to helping to put on that event in the future with y'all. So that's about all I have for right now, and I'll turn it back over to you, Ashley.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, it didn't click in my brain that we had not been back on here since AI school, and it was a fun group and a fun week for everybody to teach. So thank y'all, everyone that was enrolled in that. Vince, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me as always. Yeah, it's a good change of weather events. Like Brittany alluded to, the rainfall in our area on Friday night into Saturday morning. I was hoping to wake up to a couple of inches or so, and from my perspective as being a cow-calf producer, my ryegrass out there and planted, and it was we got 2/10. So and then Saturday during the night we got another 3/4 of an inch. So I was a little hesitant on yesterday to go look at my ryegrass field, the prepared seed bed. We had got like 2/10 during the week and another shower. So that amount of rain has gotten that ryegrass up. It's coming up. So very pessimistic, but became very optimistic quickly. So we'll talk about some ryegrass management as we move forward. So with the change of weather coming on Wednesday, with this major, pretty significant cold front coming for our area, they're talking about 20 to 30 mile an hour north winds on Wednesday and Thursday. It's going to dry things back out. In fact, I was just watching a clip from Jay Grimes. He was on Twyla this weekend and talking about how dry it is. And the forecast is expected to be dry through the next couple of months, he said, but not in a droughty condition like we experienced in 2023. But the rainfall events that we got, if you got rain coming, you got ryegrass coming up, you make sure that you get those timely fertilizer applications out, because that's the only way you can ensure yourself some growth and some grazing moving into the winter feeding period. So make sure that you take advantage of that, and don't, hesitate to put some fertilizer out if you have some appreciable rainfall coming, because that's either going to make or break the situation. I'm sure Lee's going to cover the markets. The markets have slipped a little bit here lately with some of the big trade negotiations going on. I'm sure that's what's spurring some of that. But still, it's good. So take advantage of that weather event when it does come through, and make sure you assure yourself of some ryegrass growth. Hay, a lot of people are feeding hay right now because we are in that moderate drought area in central Louisiana. People were worried, in July and August that they were going to have too much hay, but you're starting to see some dents and some haystacks as you go around. So be conservative. Maybe use some supplements out there. Being, the cattle market's somewhat, I won't say lucrative, but in a better state than we've been the last 8 or 10 years. Take advantage of some of the supplements we have out there to make sure those cattle are getting nutrition that they need, especially those fall calving cows that either have calves on the ground right now. Mosquitoes are pretty bad, so any extra energy you can help to give them ahead of this weather coming through, it's going to help them do better. So make sure that the nutrition is in place, and moving forward, we talked about, I was going to talk about some ryegrass management. Probably one of the cheapest things we can do to assure quality ryegrass stands and grazing is to apply that, a shot of 2,4-D for our buttercups that'll be coming here. And you'll see them here shortly. If we get another rainfall event, they'll be emerging along with our ryegrass. So be prepared probably around Thanksgiving time in another 3 weeks to maybe put that half pint of 2,4-D amine out, or some form of 2,4-D at about a half pint per acre to take care of those buttercups. That's just robbing you of the nutrition and the fertilizer that you're probably going to be putting out to get that ryegrass stand where it needs to be for grazing. It'll only ensure you a cleaner crop of ryegrass and eliminate some of that competition. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as, moving forward. Again, I always like to mention bull care and keep them close to the house, keep them free of insects. We're about to start, turning bulls out here in the next 45 to 60 days. Make sure that those bulls are ready to go, because they hadn't gone down in price. If anything, they've gone up. So make sure your bull battery is healthy and ready to go. Cows are on minerals, free choice minerals, even some Concept 8 if you need to get that in them after this fall calving period, and get them synchronized where they're ready to breed whenever the time comes, and have that good mineral pack out in front of them. So that's kind of where we're at in the central part of the state, hoping for more rain. They're saying showers with this front coming through tomorrow night. We sure could stand another few tenths of rain to keep that little ryegrass going, because it's going to dry things out with that heavy wind event that they're calling for following the front. So good luck to everybody, and if we can be of any assistance, let us know. And again, on the AI School, thank you for letting me be an opportunity for me to meet more growers and participate and help out that way. That's always a good event when we can come together with growers, and it's kind of more of a, I guess, less of an educational setting in a way. You get to interact with them, and you get to learn people and learn how they operate, and learn some things about their operations. So it's always interesting to let your hair down a little bit and enjoy their company. So thank y'all for letting me be part of that.
Always. Thank you for coming. And that you gave me a couple of reminders too. One thing I was going to say earlier, talking about the weather, I think we've all mentioned it at some point over at least the last couple of news updates. But be watching for respiratory illness. We had a bull that we were doctoring this morning, and he just looked rough, they said, over the weekend. They didn't see him coughing, but could see some nasal discharge. And this morning, as we were working those heifers, he was pinned up separately, of course, over there, and he finally kind of started coughing a little bit. So we got him doctored, and as Brittany mentioned, State Fair, I was kind of joking that I might need some of that in the upcoming weeks as this weather fluctuates and we go into the show barn. But definitely, we've said it and we'll keep saying it. Keep an eye out on your cattle, watch for any kind of respiratory distress, get them doctored as soon as possible with all this wet weather and the heat and cold fluctuating like it always does as we transition into winter. The other thing, Vince, thank you for touching on ryegrass. And we do have a webinar that Vince did on ryegrass, excuse me, and grazing ryegrass, I think last year, the year before. But we've got webinars on ryegrass management, as well as winter supplementation and things like that under the Beef Brunch webinars on YouTube. So we do have some of that extra information, but as Vince said, and we always say, we're here if y'all need us, so please pick up the phone, call one of us, call your local extension agent, and we'll help you out with that. With all that rambling, Lee, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Ashley, and really enjoyed Brittany and Vince's comments as well. Glad to be with you all here today. I'll echo what Ashley said about the respiratory illnesses. I've been seeing it a lot on some producers' farms. Even in my personal cattle herd, I've struggled with it a little bit on some, even a grown cow had it. So it's out there, folks. It seems like maybe it's gotten a touch better since we had the first front move through. It's kind of lowered these temperatures and settled this dust just a little bit. We have been lucky that we have gotten a little rain, though the amounts have been varied, to say the least, farther towards the central part of North Louisiana, almost near Trips country. You know, we've got 3 to 4 inches over the last weekend or so. But I talked to Josh Sally there in DeSoto Parish, county agent there, and he said that they got 0.8 of an inch. So it was widely varied rainfall amounts as far as that goes. And we still got some pockets of places in Northwest Louisiana that are very, very dry. Definitely could use some rain, as Vince alluded to, is coming through with this next front. I hadn't heard that about the wind up our way. I'm assuming maybe we'll get it too, but won't be looking forward to that. Hopefully, maybe that'll leave us alone, or maybe they're overplaying that. Brittany's absolutely correct. There's a lot of ryegrass going out right now. Still have some folks, quite a few folks up our way, plant some wheat or an oat mix or something of that nature. So a lot of that's being planted. A lot of that has emerged, and this rainfall's been timely, and it's almost time to start talking about some fertilization programs on that. But very grateful for that. They're calling for highs in the 60s coming up this upcoming week, and Vince was spot on many of his comments. I'm going to add on about the feeding the hay. A lot of folks are feeding hay up our way, and just I think I say this every year on these news updates, that folks don't wait too long to start feeding, supplementing your cows, putting that hay out. Don't let the cows get drawn down. Don't try to force them to clean up a pasture, so to speak. It's been quite a year for perilla mint up our way. There's a lot of perilla mint growing, and you all know it's very toxic cattle, and it seems like the folks up our way that have the worst problems with perilla mint are those that try to make their cows clean up pastures longer than what they should. And many years, especially if we've been pretty droughty, I understand people not wanting to put out hay, trying to conserve meager hay supplies. But this year there's been a lot of hay made up our way. I can't speak for everywhere in Louisiana. I know Vince and Brittany and farther south has been some challenges on hay making this year, but certainly in Northwest Louisiana, and I think I can speak for Tripp, Northeast Louisiana, there's been a lot of hay made. Don't wait too long. Start feeding that hay. Start planning out those supplementation plans, however you plan on supplementing those cows, depending on the hay quality. And that being said, I'll plug, hay sampling. If you need some help sampling hay, I talked to Brittany. I know she samples quite a bit of hay down in her part of the world, and it's always a good idea to see what quality of that hay is before you get started feeding it. Folks, that's most of my comments. I've got to be honest with you all. A lot of times when we record these news updates, I don't write out just a ton of notes. I'll prepare, the market update as far as what the prices have been. But other than that, I won't just compile just page after page of notes. Well, I had to this time, folks, because there has been so much going on in the cattle markets nationally and really outside the borders of Louisiana. And I feel like I have to add a disclaimer before we get into some of this news. First disclaimer is, you can go a lot of different places and get market analysis and cattle market updates and everything. So I'm not going to go into in depth on some of these news items that happened last week. I can definitely point you into the direction, or you can call me or call any one of us and we can talk about it. So I'm going to fly over some subjects very, very briefly, kind of 30,000 foot view. I'm going to try to focus on how it impacts Louisiana. The second asterisk, I guess, to this conversation, disclaimer, if you will, is that we don't really get political, folks. You know, we try to stay above that, but it's going to be a little difficult to talk about some of these news items without, because they are somewhat political, I guess. So I'll just give you just the facts and let you interpret as you will and everything. I had told Ashley that I was a little nervous about this because of how dramatic some of this news that happened last week. We had several things that transpired last week that, as Vince alluded to, has kind of sent our markets into, I hate to use the word tailspin. I'm not going to use that, but it has caused a lot of fluctuation in the markets and a lot of uncertainty in the cattle markets, primarily in the futures markets, but also some people you talk to in some market reports you find will show that cash cattle are still pretty much steady, maybe a touch lower on, especially on some of the bigger classes of cattle, the more feeder type cattle. But some are showing calf prices much steady as what they have been. Others have shown, like I said, significant losses as far as market. So let's get into kind of what the reasons why. Like I said, I'm not going to spend just a lot of time on any one reason as far as that goes. So there's been some comments. The president made some comments last week about the need to lower beef prices. There was some meetings apparently with some high-level folks within the beef industry and the administration, the presidential administration, and caused quite a bit of fluctuations within the markets. The president sent out a tweet or a post on social media that stated that beef prices need to come down and ranchers need to realize that they need to come down, and that caused it to limit down movements on the futures market last week. You know, and whenever you have a limit down movement, then it triggers expanded limit downs on the futures trade. So that happened as well. As we record this news update, boards locked limit down again today. This is Monday. So a lot of fluctuation, a lot of nerves as far as that goes on the futures market side of things. The USDA, a lot of the meetings and stuff surrounding the cattle markets were centered around the USDA's release of a plan. They call it the Plan to Fortify the American Beef Industry, and it was released on October the 22nd, so it was last week. I'm not going to give you the whole plan, but I did mark down some bullet points and everything, and how they apply mainly to us here in Louisiana. One goal is to protect and improve the business of ranching, to expand processing, consumer transparency, and market access, building demand alongside domestic supply. So what does this plan mean? What are the specifics? One is there's a lot of changes to public grazing lands. You know, when you get out west, folks, that there's a lot of ranchers and folks in the cattle business rely on those public lands, those BLM lands, federal lands to graze on. And so there's significant changes in this plan for that. Closer to home in Louisiana, they're talking about increased disaster relief. That would be, of course, administered through the FSA. And particularly that could come into play when we're talking about grazing relief payments during drought times, you know, forage loss programs, so on and so forth. Changes in beef labeling, folks. I don't think that this plan they released is going to be a full-on mandatory country of origin labeling, but it is going to change and try to seek to clarify some of the beef labeling issues that are out there. Increased access to market data. That's huge, folks. when you're making decisions on a big level as far as what market data is reportable and so on and so forth. And also, interestingly and applicable to Louisiana, is that one of their goals is to increase student access to local beef. So the ability of school systems to purchase beef locally from local ranchers and farmers, that's sure an interesting goal along with this plan. Final thing I mentioned, is the final news item centered around the beef industry last week. Was the news that has come out that about the president, executive administration wants to increase beef imports from Argentina, and that's one way to view lowering beef prices. But I copied down some data on this just for your reference or whatever, to keep this in perspective. So last year, the U.S. total beef production, this is according to USDA, 12.29 million metric tons of beef produced in the U.S. last year. Argentina's total beef produced last year was 3.18 million metric tons. So they're well below us on beef production, and of course they have some domestic use there and some other exports. So is it enough to make a huge difference? I don't know. I don't know whether it'll be enough to really bring down our box beef prices significantly. Folks, the market is playing to the drama right now. The fundamentals have not changed. That we haven't had another million head of calves materialize out of thin air. Folks, the fundamentals that have driven the market on calves and really on all classes of cattle as high are still there, folks. I've talked to a few people getting a little antsy, especially some folks that have bought in on some high dollar cattle. We hope that, if you bought us particularly on yearlings or grazing weight calves, that you've got some price protection already locked in. As far as that goes, and if you need help with that, let us know, and we'll kind of guide you through that kind of often complicated process. But there's a lot of anxiety out there. Now, I tell folks, my advice is to pick you a plan on the cattle business whenever you're talking about marketing cattle, or even in other aspects of cattle production, breeding cattle or hay production, whatever. Pick a plan and go with it and kind of stick with it. You're going to see some variation in the market. You're going to see some upheaval as we're seeing now. Fundamentals hadn't changed. Just ride it out and kind of see where we're standing here in another month. Just keep it into perspective, folks, also that this time of year is traditionally one of the lower periods as far as calf prices. Many of you that have heard me talk have seen a chart of 10-year index of calf prices, and of course our lowest prices historically would be coming right now. So we hope to get through this rough time, this bit of upheaval. Hopefully the drama will leave and we can get back to the fundamentals of the markets that's driving that. And I'll jump in the market update. I apologize for ranting as long as I have, folks. It's been there's a lot of weeks that and a couple of weeks to go by on these news updates where not a lot happens with the market, and boy, it seemed like a whole bunch happened last week. So closer to home, I'll get into our market report, and I do have to tell you all that there was not a lot of data for this market report, and the numbers that I'm going to report are not probably going to be they're correct as far as the 2-week period leading up to this week, but they're going to be much different this week. I've had a feeling. So these are the average of prices. This is October 13th through October 27th. These are the average of the prices paid on 500 to 600 pound steers. The average of the prices was $3.19 per pound to $4.10 per pound. 5 to 6 weight heifers, $3.03 per pound to $3.67 per pound. Cull cows, $1.36 to $1.64 per pound. Cull bulls, $1.66 to $1.96 per pound. Average price, high prices paid for bred cows, $3,656.25. On pairs, $3,382.14. folks, as I wrap it up real quick, I'll make Vince mention bulls, and I'll just go back on that real quick. There's been several bull sales, one or two that's already happened locally. Some more coming up here within the next few weeks. Bull prices seems to be holding steady and steadily climbing. I know our friends, Mr. Burford, had a good sale on Angus bulls a couple of weeks ago, and Branch Ranch will be having a Brangus bull sale coming up here in a couple of weeks as well. It's going to be interesting to see what those bulls bring. They're worth a ton of money. We absolutely have to have them. So heed Vince's words about taking care of them right now. With that, I will turn it over to you, Ashley.
Thank you, Lee. Yeah, a week from today, Monday, will be Branch Ranch's sale. And then also on Saturday, November 8th, will be Green Line Angus and Hoover Farms in Mount Hermon as well. And there's, of course, a lot more that are happening throughout the state and surrounding states. So be on the lookout for all of those. And if you're looking and don't know where to look, reach out to one of us and we can help you with that too. Put you in the direction of different breeders and different sales as well. In terms of our events, really, in addition to State Fair rolling in this coming Saturday, November 1st, remember we have 2 field days. So there's a field day in Clinton at the Idlewild Research Station. That's going to be beef, cattle, forages, and wildlife. And then also that afternoon, Bobby Bingham is hosting one over in the Livingston Parish area. So Dr. Donna Gentry is the contact for the one over at Idlewild in Clinton, and then Mr. Bobby Bingham over in Livingston Parish. So if you're interested in either of those, reach out to them for an agenda information to sign up. For all of those of you that are coming to State Fair, we'll see you over the next couple of weeks. And everyone else, thank y'all for joining us today, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.